You're at your community pool on a perfect summer day, watching your 1-year-old son Mark splash and giggle in the shallow end while neighborhood kids play nearby. Then suddenly, a woman storms over, points at your baby, and declares he doesn't belong there. When you refuse to leave, she pulls out her phone and calls 911 on your family. But what this woman didn't know was about to turn her world upside down and expose a disturbing truth about discrimination that's still happening in American communities today. For Frank Oliver and his family, becoming parents after years of hoping was nothing short of miraculous. When their son Mark was born, it felt like their world finally clicked into place. As Mark grew into an active, joyful 1-year-old, the community pool became their favorite family retreat. Frank, who happens to be a successful Black American leader in his city, never imagined that something as innocent as a family pool day would become a battleground for civil rights. What Frank's family experienced isn't unique. Across the United States, homeowners associations wield significant power over community spaces, and unfortunately, some HOA leaders abuse this authority to discriminate against families. The Fair Housing Act specifically protects families with children under 18, yet violations continue to occur, particularly around pool usage. Studies show that rules targeting children often mask deeper discriminatory attitudes, especially when they're selectively enforced against certain families. The community pool should be a place where all residents can enjoy equal access to amenities they pay for through their HOA dues. However, when personal bias intersects with perceived authority, it creates dangerous situations where families are harassed, threatened, and made to feel unwelcome in their own neighborhoods. Frank's story reveals how quickly a peaceful family moment can escalate into a confrontation that exposes the ugly reality of discrimination hiding beneath the surface of suburban communities. On that fateful day, Frank Oliver was doing what countless American fathers do every weekend, spending quality time with his family at the community amenities they pay for as homeowners. Mark, their energetic 1-year-old, was safely splashing in the shallow end while other neighborhood children played around them. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and the kind of innocent joy that makes community living special. Then Karen arrived. As the newly elected HOA president, she had been making her presence known throughout the community. But this encounter would define her tenure in the worst possible way. Karen approached the Oliver family with an attitude that immediately shifted the mood from playful to tense. Without any pleasantries or proper introduction, she declared that Mark didn't belong in the pool and demanded they leave immediately. Frank, confused by this sudden confrontation, calmly asked what rule they were violating. After all, they were residents paying their HOA fees, their child was supervised, and they were following all posted pool guidelines. Karen couldn't cite any specific violation, but insisted they needed to comply with her directive. When Frank politely but firmly refused to leave without a valid reason, Karen's response revealed the true nature of her authority complex. The situation escalated when Karen pulled out her phone and dialed 911. This wasn't a call about a genuine emergency, it was an abuse of emergency services to intimidate a family enjoying their community amenities. The misuse of 911 calls in non-emergency situations has become a troubling trend, particularly when used to harass families of color. Karen's decision to involve law enforcement over a completely legal pool visit exposed her willingness to weaponize systemic authority against residents she deemed undesirable. What Karen failed to understand is that HOA presidents, while holding administrative power within their communities, don't have the authority to arbitrarily exclude residents from common areas without legitimate cause. The Fair Housing Act specifically prohibits discrimination in the provision of services or facilities, which includes pool access. Her actions weren't just inappropriate, they were potentially illegal under federal anti-discrimination laws. During the tense minutes waiting for police to arrive, other residents began to take notice. Some seemed uncomfortable with Karen's aggressive approach, while others watched from a distance, unsure how to respond to the unfolding drama. Frank maintained his composure, continuing to supervise Mark while mentally preparing for what could become a dangerous encounter with law enforcement. A reality that many Black American families unfortunately must always consider. When the police officers arrived at the pool, expecting to find some sort of disturbance or safety issue, they encountered something entirely different. As they approached Frank to assess the situation, their demeanor immediately changed. Instead of treating him as a potential problem, they recognized him and snapped to attention, offering respectful salutes. In that moment, Karen's assumption about who held real authority in the community crumbled before her eyes. Frank Oliver wasn't just another resident she could intimidate, he was the city's mayor. The very person who oversees municipal services, including the police department that responded to her frivolous 911 call. Karen's shock was visible as she realized the gravity of her mistake. But this revelation exposed something far more troubling than a simple case of mistaken identity. The respect shown by the police officers highlighted a crucial truth about systemic bias and assumptions based on appearance. Karen had looked at Frank and his family and made instant judgments about their right to be in their own community space. She hadn't bothered to learn who her residents were before taking on her leadership role, and her discriminatory assumptions had led her to challenge someone who actually held more legitimate authority than she did. As the reality of her situation sank in, Karen began apologizing profusely, claiming she was just a new HOA president and didn't know who Frank was. But Frank recognized that her apology wasn't about genuine remorse. It was about fear of consequences now that she knew his position. Her behavior revealed the ugly truth that her treatment of his family was based on racial assumptions and abuse of perceived power. Frank's response was swift and decisive. He told Karen directly that her actions proved she wasn't capable of serving as HOA president and demanded her resignation letter on his desk the following day. He called out what everyone present could see, that she had judged his family based on race and color rather than treating them as equal residents deserving respect. This moment became a powerful example of how real leadership responds to discrimination with firm accountability rather than tolerating prejudiced behavior. Karen's resignation came swiftly, but the incident sparked broader conversations about discrimination in HOA governance and the need for better screening of community leaders. Frank Oliver used this experience as a teaching moment, working with the community to implement anti-discrimination training for all future HOA board members and establishing clear protocols for handling resident complaints fairly. The case became a powerful example of why Fair Housing Act protections matter and how quickly discriminatory behavior can escalate when left unchecked. Frank's family's experience led to policy changes that protect all residents from similar harassment, including requirements that HOA board members complete fair housing education before taking office. This story demonstrates several critical lessons for American homeowners and HOA communities. First, know your rights as residents and parents. The Fair Housing Act protects families from discriminatory pool rules and selective enforcement. Second, HOA board positions come with legal responsibilities, not unlimited authority to harass residents. Third, real leadership means standing up against discrimination even when it's uncomfortable, and using whatever influence you have to create positive change. For communities across America dealing with similar issues, Frank's response provides a blueprint for accountability. When discrimination occurs, swift action and clear consequences send a message that such behavior won't be tolerated. The installation of proper oversight, training requirements, and transparent processes helps prevent future incidents while building stronger, more inclusive communities. If you're facing discrimination in your HOA or community association, document everything, know your federal and state rights, and don't hesitate to seek help from housing advocacy organizations. Stories like Frank's remind us that standing up against prejudice takes courage, but it's essential for protecting the rights of all families to enjoy the communities they call home. Hit that like if you believe communities deserve transparent leadership, and subscribe to HOA Files for more wins, where regular folks use clever tactics to reclaim their power and create the inclusive neighborhoods our families deserve.